Do your cruising grounds make butter and cheese tough to find? Then you want to have what you do have last as long as possible, right? Luckily, with a little prep, your favorite dairy products are possible to keep on board for a surprisingly long time. Hi there, I'm Carolyn Sherlock, and on this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast, I'll share my best tips for making cheese and butter last on your boat. Even with refrigeration, you're going to need to take some precautions to store butter and cheese longer than a week. Butter, and margarine too, will pick up flavors and odors the longer it's stored, and cheese will mold if not properly handled. Okay, so let's talk first about butter, or really butter and margarine, although I sort of call them both butter. Any butter that won't be used in the next week should be double bagged in heavy duty Ziplocs. Good silicone bags are also a really good usage here, or vacuum sealed. If you're using these silicone bags or Ziplocs, get as much air out of the bags that you can. This will really help protect it against picking up the taste from other things in the refrigerator. I like to put just one or two sticks in each package, particularly if I'm vacuum sealing them, so that I can easily just take out one at a time. Now, I'll usually take my entire stock of butter and margarine, except what I'm currently using, into a plastic container with a tight lid, I think like a lock and lock container. Then I tuck that into an out of the way spot in the refrigerator. The colder, the better. I've kept butter that way for as long as 3 months when I found a particularly good price. Now, one thing I do is I use a lot of olive oil and canola oil in place of butter in a lot of my cooking, so I don't need to carry as much butter in the refrigerator. It's also probably healthier for us. The sticks that I'm currently using, I put into a small lock and lock plastic container, again to keep it from picking up any scents. I just use a small rectangular box out of the set that I have. Rubbermaid locket boxes also do a good job of protecting against odors. I try to keep it in the refrigerator simply because we've always cruised in hot climates. If it's not particularly hot where you are, things like a Butterbell work very well also. Cheese, I basically store it in the same way. If it comes commercially packed, I leave it in its wrapper and then put a silicone bag, a Ziploc, or a vacuum sealed bag over that. If it's been cut off from a larger piece, I'll wipe the piece well with white vinegar. Make sure that it's very dry before you put it into the Ziploc or vacuum sealed bag. I also put these into a larger plastic box for long-term storage. I keep the open cheese blocks in their own tightly lidded plastic boxes. Now, if cheese freezes, it'll become more crumbly, but it's otherwise fine to eat, so don't worry about getting it in a place that's overly cold. If hard cheeses develop a little mold, you can just cut it off, wipe the remaining part with vinegar, and just go on about your day. It really isn't going to hurt anything unless it's just totally molded throughout the whole piece of cheese. Cream cheese will keep up to 6 weeks if you vacuum seal the blocks individually. Foil and all. Just, take it out of its box, throw it into the vacuum seal. Ziplocs and silicone bags, it'll only last about 3 weeks before it'll develop mold. So that's a case where the vacuum seal really does help if you need to store it for a long time. For things like cottage cheese, ricotta, and other very moist cheeses, they can generally be stored unopened for a week, sometimes 2 if they came in a sealed plastic carton, kind with either a plastic film or foil over the top. I've never had much luck with storing them longer or storing them very long once they were open. Trying turning the carton upside down. It's been suggested in many places. That has not really done anything for me. Putting that seal against the top hasn't worked. Okay, I hope that helps you in figuring out what you can do to store your foods longer. However, if you'd like more help to make the most of your boat refrigerator, check out our course, Eating Well with a Tiny Fridge. It incorporates my book, Storing Food Without Refrigeration, and it adds so much more to help you make the most of the fridge space that you do have. It's the most widely attended seminar that I give in person at Cruisers University, and it's also the one that everybody just keeps saying how much they got out of it. So I think you really will like it. There's a link to it in the show notes. And thank you for listening to the Boat Galley Podcast. We really do want to make your boat life better. We hope that we're sparking some joy in what you're doing and making it easier so that you're not having to learn everything from scratch all the time. Please subscribe so that you never miss an episode.